Bonjour les amis. This is GenerateHER coming to you directly from the City of Light. I'm Jane Bertch, a Chicago native, Paris-based entrepreneur, author, and your partner in personal reinvention. I've spent the past 20 years living and working in Paris, and after leaving the corporate world and deciding to create something of my own, I've discovered both the beauty and the challenge of building a life shaped by curiosity, creativity, and a sprinkle of courage. In Season 2, we're going to dive deeper into the ideas that spark change. We're going to explore the small habits that shift our trajectories and the trajectories of those around us. We're going to rewrite some of that inner dialogue. We're going to lean into curiosity, and we're going to dare to reinvent ourselves at any stage of life. These are the practices that lead to true transformation. So whether you're planting a seed in your jardin secret, your secret garden, or giving voice to your creativity for the very first time, let's step into your next chapter with intention. And of course, with a touch of Parisian charm. So as we say in French, on y va, let's go. Bonjour les amis. It's 2026. I don't know how we're here, but I'm so excited about this year, and I'm so excited to have you with me. So thank you so much if you're returning, and if you're new here, I'm thrilled that we found each other. So like I do every year, I've spent time thinking about what I don't want to carry forward from the previous year and what I want to have more of in this new year we have ahead of us. And I ended up writing a piece about it for Substack. And I was amazed with the responses I had. One, I was thrilled that people really took time to dig into what I shared, but their commentary back was beautiful. Not just because they were talking about what's important to them, but I saw so many points where we have things in common. And I love that. Where we remind ourselves, no matter where we are, no matter where we're coming from, we really have so much more in common than we don't. And I think we need to hold on to that, certainly in times like these, to remind ourselves that we do, at our core, have things in common. And let's start there so we can continue to share and build bridges together. But I want to talk about the list that I shared, and I also want to talk about why I struggled with it. Because where do you start? You know, this list is not here's the lipstick that the French girls are wearing, here's how they're tying their scarves, this is how I'm going to do mine. I hope you know me by now. Those things are just so far from points of interest for me. What I do find interesting and wonderful are some of the values that I've picked up here. And they're not to say that they're better than my home country. Not at all. I have a list of things that I love and I'm grateful for growing up in America as I did many years ago. Even though I'm going to share this with you, this shocked me the other day. I realized I've spent more of my life living outside of the U.S. than in the U.S. But in my heart, and despite my different passports, I'm still American, but to me that means different values. And I love that I've been able to adopt some French ones, and I want to share them with you. One is strategic procrastination. And that just means taking time to pull in the data, assess it, and make a decision. It sounds fancy, but that's really all it is. And I credit Adam Grant for this. He's an author and a teacher and a thought leader that I really, really admire. And I believe the first time I heard this term was through him. And I love it because today we're in such a society where people say, speed is rewarded. Yes, it is. But make sure you have enough information to do that. And speed doesn't have to mean sloppy. And this is one thing I think in France people excel at. I also want to point out to anybody who's listening and works with an international audience, you see this not just transpire in decisions and businesses, but you see it also in the way people present. And I think that's so important. I've been in so many meetings with different cultures where there are some cultures where it's valued to get your response out quick and be the first one to respond and sound witty. Most of my European colleagues, and now including myself, don't value that. That's not the way they present in meetings. So leave time for your colleagues, because while you're talking, they're still preparing their response. They're thinking carefully about what they're going to say. They're very measured. Make sure you leave space for them. Now, what's the dark side of this? Because even though I shared all of these wonderful things, we have to know that there's a flip side. Everything is in moderation. This is not black and white. The flip side is you procrastinate to the point where you do nothing. And that's something to be careful of. Number 2, this actually came to me because I was looking at Instagram, and there's an author that I appreciate, and I've read their book, and they're in the leadership space, and they were advising leaders to say no to those, can we have a quick call? Can we have a quick chat requests? Because not a lot gets accomplished and it takes up a lot of time. I thought, you know what? They're right. If all you're looking for is a transaction. However, here in France, I've learned it's important to have those discussions, because without those discussions that build communication, and constant communication builds a relationship and a bond, there will be no business to discuss. So that's something I've really sat with, especially because we know how we all are. We send text messages, we're trying to quickly get a message across, but we need to distill and distinguish when it's important to have that chat. And that's also a reminder to me, if anyone in my space says, do you have time to talk? I always do. I think that's important for us. I've talked about culture before. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that, but that's certainly a value that I've picked up here, is consuming culture and using it to enrich your viewpoint, your outlook, the things you're exposed to. So important. I talked about living analog. And I did this kind of tongue-in-cheek because I feel like France is very analog. If you don't know the word dossier and triplicate, you've not lived in France long enough. But it's charming. And this is not to say that we're going to get rid of technology. Not at all. I mean, France is pretty sophisticated when it comes to technology. It might have taken them slower to develop things, i.e. strategic procrastination. But when they do, it's pretty darn good. But the point being that to honor them both and to accept that two things can be true. Analog to me is coffees in the morning with friends. It's coming offline to journal. I myself have a paper calendar. I love it. There is something so therapeutic for me to write in my calendar of things I have to do. Now, I do have an electronic one on the side that supports my businesses. But my personal calendar, where I put these important moments for me, a trip away, a lunch with a friend's birthday, I love to do that in pencil. So it's honoring them both that I think is the message here. One of the things I talked about that I'm taking into the new year is being discreet. And this is a tough one, but the reason I wanted to share this one is because this is my choice. And I want to emphasize that for anyone else out there who has felt the pressure to perform in a certain way. And boy, I tell you, social media is so difficult for me right now. I have met not met as in I know, but I've come across so many amazing people on social media that I really enjoy consuming what they share. They're thoughtful, they're provocative. They're doing what I call sharing versus showing off. But one of the things, and I will say perhaps I picked that up in France. How could I not, after 20 years here, be influenced by certain things? And I think valuing the separation between the personal life and the private life is very important to me. Now, I'm still trying to get the balance on work. That's a complex subject when you own your own business. right? So anybody who is in your ecosystem, or perhaps yourself, that is a solopreneur or a single business operator or an entrepreneur, I love working. And I'm not ashamed to say it. I love creating. I love producing things. I love understanding my clients. That's as important to me as my personal time. It doesn't mean that it will sometimes not encroach on my personal time, but that's such a big part of who I am, and I'm okay with that. But I do draw a distinction and a line with what I share publicly. And there's a lot of pressure on social media for us to get likes and go viral for all of us, including me. And I keep coming back to reminding myself there's just things I won't do, that I'm not comfortable with. It's not who I am. So what I want to share here is it's okay to stand your ground, even when sometimes you feel like you're being left behind. And being discreet in a world where everybody wants to share everything, I can only do that if I feel genuine about it, and I don't. So that was the message there. Now, what's the flip side of that? I have a business. I now have 2 businesses. You can't be discreet when you have a business. You have to let people know it exists. So there's always these little internal battles we have, especially with my new business, which is very personal, even more personal than La Cuisine. This one is about a service that I provide. And I do know that those wonderful, beautiful souls that join me here in Paris for a retreat, or decide to work with me on coaching, or join my Women in Business Mastermind, are joining because of Jane. So I need to get right in my mind. They have to learn and understand who I am. Again, it's not black and white, is it? I talked about reciprocity, which I think is a really interesting one. And I won't say that my French friends return favors because they want to. I think a lot of the time, and I still think this is valuable because it comes down to morals, they return them because they believe that they should. Boy, oh boy, wouldn't life be different if we looked every time before we ask somebody what they could do for us, if we think about what we should be doing for them as well? That's the spirit of what I love in reciprocity. It's this foundational belief that if you do for me, I must do for you. And how much richer we'll be if we can take that away and continue to remind ourselves. And I used an analogy in my piece that people are banks. You cannot continue to withdraw with them without making a deposit. And one that really stood out to everybody that I love, this is one of the lessons that I'm taking with me into this year, going all in. And I was really surprised by this, and I loved it. I had so many people that commented that this is the one that really resonated with them, going all in. And I shared this in the manner of, I want this year to approach my work, my creations, with the love that I see artisans working with theirs. It's a love and a care and a focus on creating something just for the beauty and the act of creating that matters to them. They don't care about scaling. They don't care about growing it. Sometimes you feel like they don't care about if anybody's going to buy the darn thing. It's just this beautiful approach to everything they do. I want that for me, and I want that for those around me, because I think, again, that will just remove so much pressure that we put on ourselves about, are we performing or are we really being present? Again, the dark side of that one, we know, is sometimes, particularly in a business context. So let's say if I'm doing this from a business point of view, there's sometimes that you going all in too far is detrimental. We know it. If you have a business idea that you're all in on and you've worked tirelessly to launch it and it's just not happening, you have to change direction. The only businesses that fail are the ones that don't do what clients are looking for. So, again, everything in moderation. And what were some of the things that didn't make my list that are still very important to me? Time. And if I were to step back, I'll say that time is my fil rouge. We've talked about that. My underlying thread that runs through all of these is taking time to be focused and present, taking time to be thoughtful about interacting with people and making sure that I'm giving to them as much as they give to me, taking time to think about sharing versus showing. How can I make a little change so that somebody feels included in what I'm doing, not separated from it? So all in all, I will fall very short of all of these, but I want to work on them and I want to keep them present in my mind and I want to be held accountable, which is why I'm sharing them with you. I'd love to know what's on your list for 2026. I'll also tell you that I think I have the right to change this list and grow it and expand it or shrink it and trim it. And I'm going to do that all year. That's one thing I've not done in the past that I'm going to take into 2026 with me is constantly assessing, am I where I said I want to be? And I hope all of you join me in that journey. I'm expecting 2026 is going to be such a wonderful year. The stoic in me says, don't expect anything, and you're never disappointed. But I thought, what the heck? We're going to go all in this year, aren't we? So, mes amis, I thank you so much for joining me. I wish you the most wonderful 2026. I'd love to see you here in Paris in any capacity. I've announced my retreats for this year. I'm so thrilled to see who's going to come. I'm just so lucky with the amazing women that have trusted me with that space. And I'm looking forward to see who I get to meet this year. As you saw, I'm doing one-on-one coaching. I've come back to that. I missed it. When I was launching my book, I realized that it was too much. And I am a very hands-on coach with the people I'm working with. And I know what my capacity is to get involved. And I didn't want that stretched with all the other things I was doing. So I'm so happy to have that back. And I'm starting a new initiative in my businesses, which is focused on women in business. Entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, single operators, because I realize that we need a space to not just share business concerns, but to exchange resources, exchange lessons, both about business and personal. So I'm creating a dedicated space for that called the Paris Pirouette. And above all, again, I love journaling. I've got free journal prompts on my website for you. I'd love to hear from you. Let me know how you are this year. Keep in touch. And I'll be looking forward to speaking with you soon. À bientôt, mes amis. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Generate Her. If something sparked your curiosity or took root in your imagination or helped you to see possibilities just a tad bit clearly, I'd love to hear about it. Don't forget you can always connect with me via my website, janebertch.com, or on Instagram. My handle is my name, @JaneBertch. And if you'd like to go deeper, don't forget to check out my newsletter, Prompts from Paris, my retreats here in the city, journal prompts, and more that you can find on my website. Until the next time, may you keep tending your jardin, listening to your inner courage, and shining brightly right where you are. À très bientôt, mes amis.